matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel, as well as live on location at Boston Pizza Taylor Avenue, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Alongside Ezra Ginsburg, alongside Connor Harapchuk. We upgraded over Dave Manouk today, let me tell you, that's for sure.
We're a lot younger tonight, Drew.
Yeah, a lot younger, a lot better looking than Mr. Manouk. That is no doubt about that. We are live here to talk about the Winnipeg Jets. Put away the panic buttons, everybody. The Winnipeg Jets are back in the win column with a thorough and tidy and very, very clean 4-1 victory over the overmatched Philadelphia Flyers. A game where the Winnipeg Jets, I said to you, Connor, to start that it was important for the Jets to get the first. They hadn't had the first goal in a while so far in the 3 games that they had lost in a row. They didn't have the first goal against Nashville who else did they lose to? Islanders,
yes.
And at home they lost to Philly.
Yes.
They hadn't had the first goal in the last number of games. So getting that first goal tonight for the Winnipeg Jets, I thought was a big one. And from there on, the Philadelphia Flyers looked like a team that was more concerned with who's going to be in their dressing room come the trade deadline tomorrow and who's not going to be. And the Jets just said, we're better than you. We're not going to let it be 2 losses in a row to a team that's out of the playoff picture. And as a result, the better team won tonight's contest. The Jets handy 4-1 over the Flyers tonight, gentlemen. Good to see you both in person. Connor, thanks very much for filling in, of course, for Dave, who's gone somewhere. I don't know where the hell he is. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and, I'll start off here. Obviously, guys, the Jets needed this one. They needed to end the 3-game skid. And as Drew mentioned, they get the first goal. They get the first couple goals. And the power play continues to roll, even though it wasn't in the previous 6 games, right, guys?
Yeah.
And this game looked a lot more like the Jets team that was on the winning streak prior to the 4 Nations break, as opposed to the team that lost their last 3 games, right?
For sure.
And I think you guys would agree that, in the 3 losses, there was a lot to like from the Jets. Maybe the game against the Islanders you didn't like as much from a 5-on-5 perspective. But I think especially, considering that, everything that's kind of swarming around this team, everybody's expecting a big trade. This game was basically over as far as I'm concerned after Kyle Connor put them up 3-0.
Absolutely. And I got to agree with you there. I think the last couple of games are coin flip games.
Yes.
That the Jets came out on the wrong side of flips. And tonight they jumped on a bad team early, and that bad team clearly quit, like you said, Drew. Looking ahead to the trade deadline. I was kind of shocked that Scott Lawton played tonight. I was kind of shocked that Rasmus Ristolainen played tonight. Philly clearly trying to act like they're still vying for a playoff spot here, but the Jets jumped on them early. 2 power play goals in the first period, went 2 for 2. That's now 4 straight power play goals. So any concern about that league best power play, none more about that power play. Are we good audio-wise?
We are good audio-wise. We're working our way through it.
Okay, sweet, yeah.
Ezzy's short headphone cable is causing chaos here.
Okay.
You need to get an extension for your headphones. That's causing you some problem there. We'll see if we can get a GoFundMe going to get you a headphone extension cable.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. I mean, I can still hear you guys. I just can't necessarily hear you as well in my headphones. But I think we'll be okay. But yeah, I think, look, this game is a game in which the Jets obviously, had the better scoring chances in the first and second periods. And the third period was pretty sleepy, guys, right? Like, the only thing that didn't go well in this game was Eric Comrie's shutout was broken by Matvei Michkov, who obviously took the goalie interference penalty earlier in the game. So obviously Comrie's not a big fan of Michkov after this game. First he runs into him, and then he scores and breaks the shutout. But I think overall you have to be pretty happy with the game, right? Like, it was a pretty I would say well-rounded game for the Jets, right? Like it looked, they kept the high danger chances to a minimum. The Flyers looked pretty demoralized after that Kyle Connor goal early in the second period. And obviously the 2 power play goals didn't help in terms of their morale, but this Flyers team, guys, is not going to the playoffs. And like we said earlier, we're just expecting, them to be sellers come tomorrow.
Yeah, and look, from the Jets' perspective, it wasn't like it was picture perfect, 5-on-5 throughout the course of tonight's game as Hustler walks behind us here on the camera shot. The man needs to get his camera time. The ego on him is just out of control. He's just ignoring me as he walks away. But, it wasn't picturesque. It wasn't, perfect for the Jets. But, when they've had warts, they've always had the power play to pick them up.
For sure.
And that's what you saw tonight is, okay, a little bit of a slow start. It's, average 5-on-5 play. I mean, we were talking about it during the second intermission. It's not like that first line for the Jets dominant by any stretch. It was almost like more of a first line from last year where shot attempt wise, they're on the negative side of things, but they get an opportunistic goal. They get a high danger goal. And, they're back to being, on the positive side of the goal ledger. So, negative in terms of shot attempts, positive in terms of goals scored.
Yeah.
But until that happens, you have that power play. When you have something that's that big of a weapon, it allows you to sort of ease your way into a game. Mitch Goff takes that unnecessary penalty, an undisciplined penalty. And so what do the Jets do? They do what a good team is supposed to do. They make the opponent pay for having that, for making that error.
Yeah, and I think the last 2 games we've seen kind of both sides of this power play. In the New York Islanders game, it kept them in that game.
Sure.
That game, they wouldn't have been in if it wasn't for the power play. But this one, you get those 2 power play goals at a different time of the game to start it rather than chasing the whole time.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you have a Philly team that, like we've said many times already, quit on this game, looking ahead to the trade deadline. The Jets should have won this game. They should have beat Philly the last time they played them a week ago. And when you have a power play that can step up and score twice in the first 2 attempts in the first period and just give you that cushion for the rest of the game, it's huge. And then Eric Comrie plays the way he did for the rest of the game. I mean, that's a winning formula. And the Jets' best player, Connor Hellebuyck, didn't even have to play tonight.
Doesn't have to play. He's going to get the second game of the back-to-back, which is unusual for most teams, to be honest. Usually the starter gets the first game, and then the backup gets the second game. The Jets haven't had a great deal of success in back-to-backs, especially the second half of back-to-backs this year. So they're trying to switch things around, which I appreciate. And frankly, New Jersey, even without Jack Hughes, is a better team than the Philadelphia Flyers are. But you look at the goaltending situation, I'm surprised, given how incredible he was on Saturday night against the Jets, that the Flyers don't go with Fedotov.
Yep.
I mean, he was terrific. Sure, maybe you're worried about the Jets are more familiar with them, but Samuel Ersson was pretty terrible in tonight's game. Maybe the power play goals aren't his fault, but the Kyle Connor third goal is a goal he can't let up. Instead, they go with Fedotov. They don't go with Fedotov.
It was a hockey team, Drew, that I was with.
I saw who you're waving. That's nice. Got to support the youth of today. And so instead, they keep Fedotov on the bench. Ersson doesn't do his job for the Flyers, and the Jets say, okay, thank you. This guy who had our number 5 days ago instead, doesn't get that second kick at the can against the Jets.
Well, obviously, we were watching the game here all night tonight, and after that third goal, I said to Connor, is it going to be Fedotov time here?
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think that would have made a big difference, but just to get him back and kind of settle the team down.
Sorry, hang on a second. Arthur Staples 7 minutes ago saying it sounds like Brock Nelson will be traded. Not necessarily to the Winnipeg Jets, but it sounds like Brock Nelson will be traded, says Arthur Staple. Arthur Staple, great friend of this program. We've been having him on for years.
Great writer.
Certainly dialed into everything going on with the Islanders. So it sounds like Lou Lamoriello has weighed his options and is going to put the for sale sign up on Brock Nelson. Whether or not the Jets meet that price, well, we have until about 3 o'clock. Is it 3 o'clock Central or 3 o'clock Eastern? So 2 o'clock Central tomorrow to find out for sure. But
that's huge. Well, I mean, it's we don't know.
Once the Islanders make that decision, that means that the offers they've received are at least close enough for them to engage in real nitty-gritty details of a trade, and they've made the determination that somebody has met the price more or less and as a result, Brock Nelson is going to be playing somewhere else for the remainder of the season.
Maybe I got a little bit too excited by saying it's huge, but maybe it's also because a lot of Jets fans, including Spency and everybody here at BP Taylor, are hoping that Nelson's obviously going to come to Winnipeg, right? Let's hear it. Let's hear it for Brock Nelson.
Well,
it's such a perfect fit, though, right? Like, I know Connor has written about it for Illegal Curve, and it's been discussed by Huss and Remus on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I mean, it just makes a lot of sense. It's from War Road, not too far from here.
Mm-hmm. This is his local team.
This is the team that's closest to his second line center. I mean, he's responsible defensively. This is a guy who's been a perennial 20, 25 goal guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is exactly what the Jets need to upgrade their second.
And I don't think you're underselling the fact that before we got that report, we weren't sure if Lou Lamoriello was going to trade Brock Nelson. Lou Lamoriello might want, what are the Islanders, 4 points out of a playoff spot? He might say, well, let's keep him and see if we can make the playoffs, even if our chances are super slim. So this is a massive, massive opportunity for Kevin Cheveldayoff and the Winnipeg Jets. We've talked about it at length, how good of a fit Brock Nelson would be. And he's actually on the market. So the Jets can outbid other teams. Like, you don't even get that chance if Lou Lamoriello is not listening. But now Kevin Cheveldayoff can outbid other teams if he's available, right?
Well, look, it's just a matter of now who steps up the most. I mean,
right.
If the for sale sign, sorry, I'm distracted here with BP Taylor. The handsomeness of Sean Reynolds on the TVs in front of us is overwhelming me.
It really is.
I'm not sure.
Like, you're actually blushing right now.
I mean, just to say that I know, it's like knowing a superstar on television. It's distracting me a little bit. I'm sure he feels the same way when he sees me in person. But regardless, at that point in time, that's where we're at now with the trade deadline. We know where everything stands. We know how close it is. We know that some moves have already been made today. It'll be interesting to see when the deal actually gets done. And if it gets done, of course, in the next 45 minutes to an hour, we'll discuss it all here on the Illegal Curve post-game show presented by Play Now, our good friends at Play Now.
And I think it is worth mentioning the drop-off after Brock Nelson and potential options at second line center. Like, if Lou Lamoriello wanted to keep Brock Nelson,
right,
who's next? Scott Lawton, Ryan Donato from the Blackhawks? Like, there's a significant drop-off there. So the fact that he's available is huge.
Nice depth pieces, but not anybody that's overwhelmed. That's much better than, say, Vlad Namestnikov 100%. Currently in that role.
I think, to Connor's point, I feel like Brock Nelson has been kind of criminally underrated his entire career. Like, he's one of those guys.
Except for the last 3 weeks.
No, yeah, absolutely. Here in Winnipeg, people have been talking about him for at least 3 weeks, if not longer. But he's one of those guys, like, ask any Islanders fan. I mean, you guys saw Brock Nelson on the bench. I think it was Shannon Hogan, right?
Yeah.
Who was interviewing.
Getting emotional after the game on Tuesday.
I mean, this is a guy who's bled the New York Islanders colors since he came into the league. He's a really solid player. And I think it would be a similar type of acquisition to when the Jets got Stastny. I really think it would have the same impact. And obviously it bumps Namestnikov down, and you'd have to figure out, like, is Namestnikov now centering your fourth line? Is it that simple? Where does that leave a guy like Rasmus Kupari, right?
Well, Kupari, for those he's injured now. He's injured. He's on IR for the next week. He's in concussion protocol after he went hard into the boards on Tuesday against the Islanders. So he's not going to be an option for the Jets, at least for the next week. So that if that trade happens, or if a trade happens, Namestnikov logically you would think would move down to go into that fourth line center role. David Gustafsson would likely move out of the lineup, and then with Rasmus Kupari, well, he's probably out of the lineup as well moving forward. But again,
these are good problems to have.
Of course,
if Rasmus Kupari is your 13th forward, okay, well then that's your 13th forward, and it's unfortunate for him that he's not going to get starting minutes. But again, Chevy is trying to make this team, put this team, a notch above where they already are, which is first place in the entire league, right, guys? So, I mean, that's obviously the big one. And then, like Connor said, I mean, there's other teams that are in the market for centers, right? You hear Toronto, New Jersey. Obviously, things have changed for the Devils with the Hughes injury, but they were already in the market for a center. But
for sure,
I mean, it's clear that Nelson is the target for Chevy, and so hopefully he's going to be able to pull it off tomorrow.
Yeah, I was saying to you guys at intermission as well, I can't see a scenario where we get to 2:05 Central Time tomorrow. The trade deadline is passed, and the Jets still have their first round pick this year. I just can't see it. Like, this is the best Jets team through how many games have they played? 61, 62. This is the best they've been.
Well, we
Better than
talked about it.
2017-18, so
I mean,
there's no way.
We talked about it maybe a couple weeks ago on the Saturday show, on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, 9 a.m. this coming Saturday. We talked about it and said that, the floor for the Winnipeg Jets really does feel like the Western Conference Finals. The way they've been dominant so far this season. That,
for sure.
This isn't, there's not the just happy to be there idea. I can't see this team collapsing similar to how they've done the last 2 years. It seems like with everything going on, with where they are in the standings, with which should be a weaker first round opponent in either Calgary or Vancouver or Utah or St. Louis or whoever it is, that the floor almost seems like it should be the conference finals. And so when you know that your team is that good or your expectations are that high, what do you have to do? You have to go and find that piece that all of a sudden, you think puts you over the top as a conference champion, a spot the Jets have never been in. Mm-hmm. Certainly in the NHL era of the Winnipeg Jets.
No, and I think, you guys would agree Nemesnikov, Ehlers, and Perfetti were good tonight.
Great.
If not great.
You were looking at the numbers on
right.
Natural Stat Trick there, Connor.
Yeah, the numbers were really heavily tilted in the Nemesnikov line's favor, but it's looking at it from more of a macro view, right? Like, it's not just looking at it from the last week or the last 2 weeks. It's looking at it like who gives you the best option. Maybe I shouldn't frame it like that. It's not just comparing Brock Nelson to Vladislav Nemesnikov, but it is in a way, right? Are you willing, like Connor said, are you willing to give up the first round pick, just like you were last year, to improve yourself at second line center? So when you get to the later stages of the playoffs, we expect them to most likely face Dallas in the second round. Well, is Vladislav Nemesnikov going to get the job done? Possibly, but that Brock Nelson is going to get the job done based on his pedigree from New York.
I'll tell you what, if your trade deadline acquisition is Brock Nelson, and the Dallas Stars trade deadline acquisitions of Mikael Granlund and Cody Ceci, because they acquired both those guys probably about a month ago now, maybe somewhere around there,
right before the break.
Yeah, you'd much rather have Brock Nelson than you would Granlund. Brock Nelson is the kind of guy who, can win you some games and win you some series. Granlund and Ceci are complementary pieces.
Granlund's a good offensive player. Like, he's got good offensive numbers, but Brock Nelson's a complete center.
That's right.
Like, when you talk about a two-way, like, he's a number one center on the New York Islanders if it's not for Matt Barzal, right? Mm-hmm. He's a second line center on a really good team, which the Jets are. It's it's a perfect fit. And again, guys, like, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here because we're being told that there are other teams in on Brock Nelson, but there's only one team we care about, and it's the Winnipeg Jets. So hopefully they're going to be able to snag him.
Yeah, just one last thing before we can move on to the goals here.
Hey, if you're going to be on the post-game show, use the right language. It's the play now game recap. Come on. We've been teaching you all year. We've been testing you. You got to make sure you hit your liners.
It's my first in-person one. I'm nervous.
True. You're a little intimidated by our presence. I understand
exactly.
But you got to make sure you hit your liners. You got to hit your clock. You got to hit the bumpers.
Oh yeah.
You got to make sure you get the language.
Connor's like Jordan Bennington. He's like, do I look nervous? Do I seem nervous?
Stepping up in the big moments. Yeah.
Go before I interrupted you. Go ahead.
I just want to further your point, Ezzy, about looking ahead. Like Vladislav Nemesnikov, the line tonight. The Cole Perfetti, Nemesnikov, Ehlers line. The shot attempts with them on the ice were 18-1 in the Jets' favor.
Is that good?
So, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. The expected goals were nearly 90%, scoring chances 8-1. But it's all about, so that line's a good regular season line, and they've been a good second line here in the regular season. But it's about looking ahead. And like you said, Ez, if the Jets are able to win a round, they'd likely be paying Dallas. Dallas's center depth, Rope Hintz, Matt Duchene, Wyatt Johnson, 1, 2, 3. So you need to be able to compete with that if you're going up in the second round against the Dallas Stars, right? So it's all about looking ahead, and I think the Jets do need to upgrade there.
Thankfully, Nelson and Lowry
you match up
against them.
Absolutely. And then you have Connor Hellebuck, and you have the defenseman and Josh Morrissey to match up with Miro Heiskanen, and it's
Heiskanen still banged up.
Right. He might not even play. So it's all it's all. This is what the things Chevy is looking at is the areas that they need to upgrade. And second line center, I just can't see them upgrading. I can't see them not upgrading it tomorrow.
And while they're at it, they might as well go get Brad Marchand as well.
Yeah.
Because the rumors has it that sounds like more likely than not that he's going to get dealt from Boston at the trade deadline.
He'll just look like, I realized a lot of players that have been with the team for a long time will look weird.
He'll look
really weird. Because
Yeah.
Brad Marchand, like, just he's a Boston Bruin.
Yeah.
So
To Toronto, Brad Marchand.
Could
you imagine?
Doesn't Vegas make the most sense?
Yeah.
Doesn't Vegas
I'm just
make
saying,
a lot
could
of
you
sense,
imagine for the drama?
Yeah.
Brad Marchand in the blue and white.
That would be hilarious. and I still, if Marchand potentially goes, Rantanen. I mean, this isn't the trade deadline. Sometimes, the trade deadline comes around and the names we talk about are really middling names who get made out to be more than they are. With all due respect, if Scott Lawton, there's been plenty of years where Scott Lawton-esque players are the headline player at trade deadline day, for sure. That's not this year. That's not this year with talk of Rantanen.
No, you're
Marchand.
talking about future Hall of Famers.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like both of these guys are going to be future Hall of Famers, especially Marchand. Maybe Rantanen's a little bit early to start talking about that, but not really.
But he's a top 10 forward.
Yeah, he's a 100-point guy. Like,
that's right.
So you're absolutely right. I mean, it's going to be fascinating to see if both Rantanen and Marchand get traded. It's going to be interesting to see which team makes a bigger splash maybe than we didn't think, because it's still kind of hard, guys, to figure out who the buyers and who the sellers are.
Yeah.
Like the Parayko injury, like that kind of makes Doug Armstrong's job a little bit easier, right?
Doug Armstrong is a very rational human being.
Oh,
he
absolutely.
never thought that they were anything other than sellers to begin with. I know that they're close, but they've also played 2 more games than everybody else in the in the Western Conference.
I think they were always a seller.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anybody, I mean, look, if you're in the, Colorado is maybe the only team that's in a wild card spot that isn't a seller. Not a seller, but like not a middling team.
Yeah.
Middling
That was
playoff
another team, by the way, Drew. Sorry, I know we're going to get into the goals
It's
here.
okay. We got lots to talk about today.
That's another team that I wonder, like, is that a team that could be looking at a Brock Nelson, or if not Brock Nelson, a Scott Lawton, right? Because their 2C, it hasn't really worked out like they wanted with Casey Middlestat,
does
right?
Casey Middlestat bring them Brock Nelson? Lou Lamoriello, certainly isn't one who, he would be willing to consider probably an active roster player instead of just a draft pick for Brock Nelson. So does Casey Middlestat, because he certainly hasn't worked out. Bowen Byram hasn't really worked out in Buffalo. Middlestat hasn't really worked out in Colorado.
Well, the reason why that might work, Drew,
They're
is
definitely
because
looking there.
Nelson's obviously a rental,
Yeah.
right? I mean, a team that acquires him is hoping that they can sign him, but with Middlestat, doesn't he have 4 years left on his deal or something like that?
3 or 4, yeah.
3, so that could work for the Islanders. The asking price right now seems high. Like, it seems like a first-round pick and like a 2026 second-round pick a few weeks ago might get you Nelson, but it sounds like, because as we talked about, the separation from there's an upper tier, right? Like there's Rantanen, Marchand, Nelson, and then there's like the second tier.
The Ryan Donatos, the Scott Lawton.
Like Ryan O'Reilly would be in the top tier.
I agree. And one thing that I keep coming back to is the timing of these 3 straight losses for the Jets. Because coming out of the 11-game win streak, a lot of the talk was, well, maybe you don't want to mess with the chemistry because this team is. I agree with you, Drew. I've never been one that if you have a team and you have as clear of a need as the Jets do at second line center.
It's not like they're bringing in a locker room poison in any of these guys.
Exactly. So I think actually, I know saying it during the losses, that the 3 straight losses actually maybe a good thing, a blessing in disguise, that if they went into the trade deadline on a 14-game win streak, I think there's a lot more pause.
And it was looking like it could be
or it would have been 15 maybe, I guess. But I think there would have been a lot more pause to bringing in a Brock Nelson type, but 3 straight losses, the 5-on-5 play dipping a little bit, the power play not looking as good.
Yeah.
I honestly think that was okay in the grand scheme of things, and I think it told the Jets that, hey, we have clear needs, both on the third pair, maybe on the right side of the defense, but especially at that second line center spot. And Brock Nelson is the target for all the reasons we've listed and the drop-off after him.
Obviously, we're going to keep a close eye on everything that's going on tonight. A very busy night in and around the NHL. But the Jets did play tonight, and they did win a game.
Did they?
Yeah, again, it's hard to believe. It seems like so long ago at that point in time.
Yeah.
They beat the Philadelphia Flyers 4-1. So why don't we recap that game goal by goal like we do? Connor, what's it called?
The Play Now game recap.
Attaboy.
The Play Now game recap.
Big thanks to our friends at Play Now for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show, as well as the Illegal Curve hockey show. Don't bet on illegal sites. Bet with Play Now instead. Make sure you keep your money in the province of Manitoba. All funds, of course, that go to Play Now go back into general revenues for the province of Manitoba, which is an important thing for all of us. Playnow.com is the website you need to go to. The Jets open the scoring on the power play. Put away the panic buttons. The power play is A-OK for the Winnipeg Jets. Their third consecutive goal with a man advantage. 3 for 3 going back to the game against the Islanders. It comes at the 8:32 mark. It's a backhand rebound from Mark Scheifele, his 35th of the year. Assist to Gabe Vilardi and Kyle Connor. And you could see the power play, even when it was struggling. There was too much good there to keep it down for too long. Davis Payne spoke about that before the team went out on the road trip. Mm-hmm. You saw the 2 goals against the Islanders on Tuesday night to keep them in the game. Well, this goal by Scheifele gives them the all-important opening goal, gives them the lead, a lead they wouldn't relinquish in tonight's contest.
Yeah,
sorry,
I'll jump in. Sorry.
He's eager. You take the rest of the show off, Ginsburg. The bar's right behind you.
I'll sit back, Connor.
Yeah, go sit with Hustler over there.
I was gonna say that we know what a bad Jets power play looks like, right? We've seen it past couple of years, right? And even through the 0 for 18 or 19 or whatever the final number ended up being, drought.
Yeah,
they were still moving. They were still getting chances. They were still shooting the puck. They were still attacking. And Davis Payne and the players, they weren't panicking. And this is another example. You get the puck into the middle to Gabe Vilardi, who shoots the puck on net, generates a rebound. Everyone's attacking off of that. It lands on Mark Scheifele's stick, and the power play continues to click. And they're moving. There's options. Nikolai Ehlers below the goal line. Sometimes he's in the bumper. There's just so many options. Mm-hmm. And at no point during the slump did I see a stagnant power play. Maybe there were issues with the entry, which have been solved because their entry's been a lot more crisp these last 2 games.
Yeah.
But this is another example of having tons of options, tons of movement, and getting right in on the rebound. Mark Scheifele with the backhand.
Yeah, the only thing that was stagnant on that was the Flyers' D-zone coverage, I would argue.
Well, and we talked about it, right, guys? We're going to get into the next goal, which was obviously scored by Ehlers, but the formation looks exactly the same. Connor's right. The position that Gabe Vilardi was in up the middle, the bumper position, if you will, him and Ehlers, Vilardi and Ehlers, that is, they're so interchangeable there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Vilardi, you're a little bit, because of his size and his hands and his reach, but Ehlers, last time I checked, his hands were pretty good as well. Right? He has the ability to make plays in tight, right? So the way it was looking, and I think you're 100% right, Connor. Mm-hmm. Even when the Jets were in that, 0 for 15, 0 for 16 slump, they were getting lots of high quality chances, and you knew that it was only a matter of time. I don't think anybody was pressing the panic button. Obviously, it was hurting them in some of these games.
Maybe they could convert on these 2-minute 5-on-3s. That would be nice.
Exactly. That's a great example. It was the game in San Jose and the Philly game, right?
The Nashville game and Ottawa game.
Yeah, sorry. All these games are starting to kind of form into one. But, 2 games in a row where they had full 2-minute 5-on-3s or almost full 2-minute 5-on-3s. You just expect the Jets to score with the best ranked power play in the league, right? So always good to see the Jets score early in a power play. And obviously against the Flyers in their home rink, they're desperate to just stay relevant to the playoff race. These 2 power play goals are just killer. And it's what you like to see if you're a Jets fan, the power play clicking at a top-notch rate.
And certainly was in that to give the Jets the 1-0 lead. And 7 minutes later, it clicks again. Nikolai Ehlers. This is a pretty goal. Nikolai Ehlers, his 20th of the year, probably the easiest goal he's had to score all season long. Mark's secondary assist, and it's a pass into the seam from, I believe it was Kyle Connor, who gets the third assist on the goal, which isn't a thing, but Connor into the seam, a one-touch pass from Vilardi onto the stick of Scheifele. Scheifele, a one-touch pass over to Nikolai Ehlers, and he's left so all alone. There's nobody within an area code of him. I'm pretty sure the closest Philadelphia Flyers player was actually in New Jersey when Nikolai Ehlers deposits this goal past Samuel Ersson, and it's a 2-0 lead for the Winnipeg Jets. This is just, they're in sync, not the band, but just in tune the way they're moving and they're touching. And you can see that Velarde he knows where Scheifele is, and he's not even looking at him. It's almost like eyes in the back of his head sort of pass to get it onto Scheifele's stick. That's the most impressive part of it. And then Ehlers is just right there to tap it in there as.
Well, like Connor was talking about with the motion of this power play and all the different options, like even if you're able to take away the middle or you're able to take away Nikolai Ehlers, which they obviously didn't, but like the power play, it's interesting. The power play obviously goes through Connor, but it goes through Scheifele as well, right? Like there's they
can put through whoever they want to put it.
Well, that's the thing. You have to worry about you have to worry about Morrissey.
Yeah.
Morrissey's a guy that can not only can he get the puck, get those point shots through, but he's a guy that can interchange with another player and jump up and create havoc, right? So, I mean, it's just great to see the Jets power play scoring, not just looking good, but actually scoring. And yeah, Ehlers is a little bit too wide open, and like. I know this might be simplifying it, boys, but like looking at different penalty kills, you can't be passive. Like you have to be an aggressive penalty kill against the Jets. Right. That's what stood out to me on these goals. Mm-hmm. Like the Flyers were just a step behind.
Yeah, and it's funny you talk about that Scheifele knew where Velarde was. Here's the quote that's coming from Murat Atesh of The Athletic. He asked Scheifele what he saw on the play. Quote, "When you have guys in the right spot and know where they are, it's second nature. You don't have to think or look. You know where guys are." And that's Scheifele, Velarde, Ehlers, Connor, Morrissey. At this point in the season, 60, whatever game this is now at this point in time. This is game 62, 63?
63?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, they blend together.
Yeah.
They know where each other is going to be. They know where they want to move to. And Scheifele just was able to get right where he was from Velarde. Just perfect.
And I like that quote because
63.
Game 63. There we go. I like that quote from Scheifele because this power play looks like they're not thinking, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Like they're just playing so free, so effortless. And we have the luxury of having the replays of the goals up here, so people in chat won't be able to walk through it. But when the puck goes to Velarde and he makes that kind of one-touch pass to Mark Scheifele, who then one-touches it backdoor to Nikolai Ehlers, Travis Sanheim steps up on Gabe Velarde. So Velarde got the shot on net, which resulted in the rebound on the Scheifele goal.
Right.
And then on this one, you can see Travis Sanheim almost make like a concerted effort, like they're going to get that slot shot again, so I better step up. Velarde one touches it, and then right behind Travis Sanheim, Nikolai Ehlers is wide open in the back door. So it's like that's the option. That's what we talk about. That's it working in real time.
Yeah.
A guy comes wide open because they got the shot one power play earlier, and then Travis Sanheim steps up to take away that play, and Nikolai Ehlers is wide open because of it.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So Sanheim trying to prevent the shame on me.
Yes.
Instead, the Jets change. Just like Rowdy Piper used to say this before your time, Connor.
Yeah.
Just when you think you know all the answers, I change the questions on you, and that's exactly what the Winnipeg Jets did.
Anytime you can bring up a Roddy Piper reference,
Thank you.
is okay with me.
There you go. I thought as a wrestling fan you would approve.
Well,
of
and
that
from Winnipeg, of course.
Yes. Brandon, I thought, but
Or
Manitoba. Somewhere in
Manitoba,
Manitoba,
yeah.
I think. Somebody in the chat can fact check me on that one way or the other. 2-0 for the Jets after 20 minutes. They make it 3-0 early in the third period. It's at the 5:28 mark of the third period.
This is the goal that I like to call the Ginsburg backbreaker, right?
Well, except that's your back all the time. Is the Ginsburg backbreaker?
That's to me is the type of goal that it breaks your back.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's no question.
Look, the Flyers are not a very good team, guys. We've established that. They might have beat the Jets. They got a little bit lucky, and I think I would argue that Fedotov goalied the Jets in that game.
Yes.
And look, this is a goal that you can't let in. Kyle Connor, arguably one of the best releases in the game. I don't think it's very arguable, to be honest with you. He does have one of the best releases in the game, but like Connor said it here while we were watching the game, and I agree with him. Urson's having a rough year, but even with that release, like that's a goal. You just have to stop that. You're down 2-0 at home from that angle, and it's easier for me to say that, obviously, because I'm not the one that has to stop Kyle Connor on a partial breakaway, right?
Yeah.
It's a nice shot, but again, the context of where you are in the game,
you can't let it in
under the blocker.
It's a shot
you got to
the
stop
whole
that.
way. You have to see it. I agree. I mean, if you're the Flyers, you're absolutely right. It's a demoralizing goal to give up because it should be a relatively routine save.
Right.
Instead, it gives the Jets the 3-0 lead. Connor from Shifley and Velarde, and it also gives us our
Seagram's shot of the game.
There you go, Connor. Don't let me press the
Seagram shot of the game.
I feel like the veteran broadcaster who's getting replaced before his very eyes by the young up-and-coming whippersnapper who's doing a better job than the old guy does in the first
Drew,
place.
it's the young guns. I've told Connor, listen this, and Jacob this. They're the three young guns of Winnipeg sports media.
That's true. The rest
It's only a matter of time before they take over.
I feel honored to be old and washed up, but you're absolutely right about that. That's why on Sunday mornings, the one place to be. We got to talk to we got to see if we can do a simulcast both on the WST YouTube channel and on the Illegal Curve YouTube channel. There's no reason why both avenues, both platforms can't be broadcasting. We'll change the name of it. It can't be WST Sunday Live. So, we'll be in negotiations about that and see if we can tweak that name a little bit. In any event, 3-0 for the Jets at that point in time. Go ahead, Connor. Your thoughts on
the
that
goal?
goal?
Yeah. Well, I just think it was nice to see the top line get on the board at 5-on-5. I wrote it in my next day thoughts for illegalcurve.com after the Islanders game, but that line
Dave's not here. You don't have to plug the website. You're fine.
I need to fill in though and plug the website for him since he's not here. That line got absolutely caved in against the Islanders at 5-on-5. The shot attempts were 23-3 for the Islanders when that line was on the ice. So not a great night there. Yes, they scored on the power play at that top line, or they contributed to the power play goals. It was Morrissey and Ehlers, but that line had a rough night. Tonight as well at 5-on-5, like the shot attempts were 16-8 for the Islanders with the Jets top line on the ice. The shots were even at 7, scoring chances even as well. But the top line got on the score sheet at 5-on-5, which I think they need to get back to that elite top line level because they go through these peaks and valleys.
No question.
That's something that, we talk about the playoffs all the time. If the top line were to go on a valley in the playoffs, that is something that would burn the Jets. But right now, it's all about playing the right way at this time of the year, and that top line hadn't been for the last couple games. So it's nice to see Kyle Connor, even though, I don't know what the Flyers are doing, leaving him that wide open from the circles. And then obviously Urson, I agree with you guys, could definitely stop that puck. But it's nice to see the top line get on the board with their 5-on-5 struggles of the last couple games.
You make a really good point about the Shifley line needing to get going at 5-on-5 because I think you'd agree a big storyline of the Jets season thus far not only is the top-ranked power play in the league, but it's the fact that it's been able to bail them out of so many games, and it wasn't able to bail them out against the Flyers last game, right? It wasn't able to bail them out against Nashville. Another game, obviously, in which UC Soros goalied them. Same thing against the Islanders, right? Or pardon me, not the same thing against the Islanders. Sorry, that was the one game where the power play came through, like you said, when the 5-on-5 wasn't there. So you obviously, guys, with 20 or so games left in the season, you want this line to be clicking at 5-on-5. You want the Nemestikov line. You want all four lines ideally to be clicking at 5-on-5 because the power play is not going to be able to bail you out 82 times a year. Might be able to bail you out 65 times a year.
Yeah.
So that's key, and that was a big goal. Like I said, Drew, the Ginsburg back-breaking goal, where basically the Flyers were not coming back after that one.
They certainly were not coming back. The Jets, for good measure, make it 4-0. This coming at the 9:03 mark. So about 4 minutes later, the Jets make it 4-0. Adam Lowry, his 12th of the year, assist to Mason Appleton and Nito Niederreiter. And it's a beautiful passing play for these guys. Truthfully, this very well could have been the Seagram shot of the game as well, given how well they moved the puck. But I love that it starts with the stretch pass. I believe it's Dylan Sandberg who makes the original stretch pass up to Nino Niederreiter, and then they hit the line downhill and with speed. And when that line is going downhill with speed, they're hard to contain. Big men moving fast, and it's just a beautiful passing play, starting with Sandberg to Niederreiter to Appleton. Then Lowry is just wide open, and the Flyers, they had no interest in getting in the way of the locomotive that was Adam Lowry in that instance.
And the third line's really interesting because every once in a while they'll play a 3-on-2 like they're the Shifley line, and it'll just come out of nowhere. And this was one of those times, like sometimes they really struggle in transition, those three, but you see the chip pass, you see Lowry drive to the net. He doesn't get his stick tied up. He's going hard to the net. They're playing direct. Like, this is when the third line is at their best. Yes, they can cycle the puck down low, and they're really good at that. And then obviously they're a shutdown line. But offensively, when they can skate in transition and even generate chances off the rush, that's almost like icing on the cake. Like, you don't expect that out of the Lowry line, but Niederreiter with a really solid chip to Appleton, who's coming with speed. And then Lowry just beats everyone to the net. And like you said, Adam Lowry's 6'5", 220 pounds. No one's getting his way.
Well, look at
when
Travis,
he's leaning down.
look
on
at Travis Konechny on this play.
Yeah.
He's the guy who gets beat by Lowry.
Good luck.
I mean, Konechny is he's a perimeter player in this one right now. He has no interest in getting in having to body up against Adam Lowry on this play. He slams his stick against the post afterwards. I'm like, well, what did you expect? You're trying an absolute weak stick check here on Adam Lowry, and I sort of understand, going into business for yourself on this play, but it's not going to look good on the video review when you watch Travis Konechny's effort on this play for the Flyers.
Well, and I think Connor makes Connor's making a lot of good points. I think we should have him on the show more often. But this line, again, is not a line that scores a lot, and this is a goal off the rush, right? This is a line that scores a lot of their goals beneath the goal line, off of the cycle, maybe off of a point shot, a tip, or a rebound. And let's be honest, what did Niederreiter have? No points in 7 games entering this game? Like, he needed this one.
Yeah.
And we're big fans of Niederreiter's game, but he was not contributing like you would like. Like,
He's consistently streaky.
Well, and that's the
Niederreiter.
thing, right? Like, Niederreiter's the type of player, 2 games, 3 games. You just don't want him going 7 games.
Yeah.
You don't want him having, stretches like that where, I'm not saying he was playing poorly by any stretch of the imagination, but
He
this
has
is
a
just
tendency.
nice direct line goal. Connor's right. It's a nice pass by Niederreiter to Appleton, who finds Lowry streaking, and it just bodes well. I think there's a lot to like about this game. Like, you could really check a lot of boxes, guys, in this game. Power play was good. Comrie was good.
Yeah.
The Scheifele line was good, better at 5-on-5. There's a lot to like about tonight's win for sure.
You arrest the losing streak. It's a 3-game losing streak. You still got a point in one of those 3 games. You're back on the win column. You don't lose to a weaker team again. You got New Jersey and Carolina. Those are 2 better teams that you have to face on the rest of this road trip.
Yeah.
You're feeling better about yourself. That's all you are. Is you're going into the trade deadline. You're like, okay, our little blip is beyond us. Not to say that they're going to win tomorrow against New Jersey, but you got a Devils team that's without Jack Hughes, which is I don't think I need to tell anybody here. That's a huge, gigantic loss for the New Jersey Devils. As a hockey fan, you regret not being able to see him for the rest of the season. But the Jets are going to say, okay, well, let's go play again in New Jersey and see what we can do after the trade deadline. Maybe there's a boost coming. Maybe there's a Brock Nelson coming. Who knows what's coming? But we're excited to see it. And we get back on the win column. You don't want to go 4 or 5, potentially 6 games without a victory at this stage of the season. And who knows what happened. And Calgary and Dallas are playing tonight. So last I saw, I think
Calgary's up 2-1.
There you go.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
Out of town scoreboard. People are cheering for the Calgary playing
for sure. And look, there was 3 straight losses, and I tried to sugarcoat it earlier, and I stand by that take that, maybe a few losses was good so that the Jets didn't just stand pat at the deadline, but Dallas is right there. Like, if this losing streak did hit 4, 5, or 6 in a row with these, if they had lost tonight, and then, like you said, New Jersey and Carolina, clearly the 2 best teams on this road trip, that becomes a big slide. And then if Dallas starts to roll and they get in there, then all of a sudden you're fighting for the division, you're fighting for the conference. And I know you guys and we on WST Sunday Live, we've spoken at length about how important that 1 seed is. You don't want to play Colorado in the first round or any of the 6 teams between Colorado and the Jets. You want Vancouver, you want Calgary, you want one of those teams that's falling backwards into the second wildcard spot rather than taking it. And wins like tonight against teams like Philly, who you should beat, even with your backup goaltender in net, you should beat like they did, and you took care of business.
It wasn't a shutout as Matvei Michkov gets a goal with 2 minutes and 42 seconds to play in the third period.
He had to ruin the party, Drew.
Michkov breaks the shutout for Comrie, but the Jets still win handily tonight, 4-1 over the Philadelphia Flyers. They reaffirm themselves as the best team in the NHL standings-wise. They hit the 90-point mark at the 63-game mark. I'm sure Dave M will have some pedantic tweet up about that later on tonight when he goes through all his
shallow and pedantic.
That's what it says on Dave's business card. As soon as we get those business cards printed up, shallow and pedantic is what they're going to say. But the Jets, they are victors tonight. The trade deadline is our focus from now until 3 o'clock Eastern time, 2 o'clock Central. And then, of course, we have another edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show on Friday night, and then the Illegal Curve hockey show on Saturday morning, and then the Illegal Curve post-game show on Sunday. So how about a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday stretch run for us here at Illegal Curve. Connor, you're going to be joining me on Sunday as well. So it's an exciting time ahead. And the trade deadline is now everybody's focus moving forward. We'll go.
What do we have, about 16 hours now?
A little bit, well, no, less than that. 12 hours from now would make it 9 a.m. No, 12, and then make another 5. 17 hours. So there you go. I can do the math real quick there. You see, you saw the brain cells
I was
firing.
told there'd be no math.
Exactly. And if there's any math, then it's only going to get more and more dangerous as the night goes on. In any event, a nice victory for the Winnipeg Jets tonight, 4-1 over the Philadelphia Flyers. To no one's surprise, Eric Comrie was a great quote post-game, which we'll tell you about, and we'll read you the quotes after the commercial break. Drew Mindell, Ezra Ginsburg, Connor Harapchuk. We're live at Boston Pizza on Taylor Avenue. It's the Illegal Curve post-game show, the Illegal Curve watch party. We're having a ton of fun. Don't go anywhere. Much more to come.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal. We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling sites instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in 2 unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
We are back at Boston Pizza on Taylor Avenue. We're back live on our YouTube channel. It's the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mindell, Ezra Ginsburg, and Connor Harapchuk. We're talking about the Jets. We're talking about the Philadelphia Flyers game. We're talking about the trade deadline. So Kevin Weeks just tweeted that the Minnesota Wild are making a move, but he's also just out of surgery. So it's unclear if he's actually tweeting accurately or if he's tweeting under the influence of,
some painkillers,
and some general anesthetic. So nothing else on that front. So we're going to leave that one be for the time being. And if there's more to bring to you tonight, tomorrow, Saturday. Well, I guess there won't be a trade on Saturday, but we'll recap all the trades on Saturday morning's Illegal Curve Hockey Show. In any event, Frank Saravelli saying that the Rangers are at advanced discussions with the Buffalo Sabres on J.J. Peterka. Peterka is a pending RFA. That's more of a move for the Rangers. I mean, I guess it's going to help them this year, but it would also help them for future. So that's something to keep an eye on as well.
That's a guy that's really interesting, Drew. We talked about it on last Saturday's show.
Yeah.
That's I think a second-round pick, a high second-round pick, the Sabres. But that's a guy he's a good player. He's a future, 35 goal scorer, 40 goal scorer. Like, Peterka's young. He's 22.
The Sabres are so dripping with talent that they don't need guys like that.
I don't know what the Sabres are ever doing, really.
Yeah, and it's always wise to target Buffalo Sabres players who are struggling in Buffalo and have high potential, right?
Yeah.
Because once they leave Buffalo, they'll be a superstar.
Well, that's the thing about being a bad organization, is that these guys just feel when they leave bad organizations, they feel like they've just been gotten a pardon from the governor while they're on death row.
Yeah.
Not to be too dramatic or anything, but you get out of that just culture of losing. I mean, this isn't strictly about the Jets or hockey necessarily, but I've become a firm believer. This is about sports, it's about business, it's about really life in general. How important the right culture is
100%.
in terms of getting the results that you want. If your culture isn't right, it doesn't matter how good your players are. It doesn't matter how good your employees are. It's almost that culture, to some degree, overwhelms everything else. I mean, I think the Jets themselves are an example of that. Their culture wasn't right. They changed the culture, which is a lot easier said than done. The fact that they were able to change it in that one off season is unbelievable. A team like Buffalo hasn't been able to change their culture in 15 years.
Yeah.
The Jets did it in 2 months, when the captaincy being stripped and a new head coach.
Yeah, the Buffalo Sabres could use a Rick Bowness type right about now.
They probably thought Lindy Ruff was going to be it.
True.
But, I don't.
They're just so cursed that they have no way out. Buffalo,
Okay, so it's Justin Brazeau is involved in the trade from Boston to Minnesota. So Marat Kustadinov, who was first of all, I pronounced that. Good thing we had the commercial break, so
Peace out to Huss.
Yeah, there goes Hustler. He was joining us tonight at Boston Pizza on Taylor Avenue. Justin Brazeau is going from Boston to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for Marat Kustadinov and Jacob Lauko. Kustadinov, a former second-round pick, mostly at Iowa, playing for the Wild, but he's the kind of guy who seems like he's about to break through and maybe become an NHL regular. Justin Brazeau, younger player still for Boston, but again, Boston's at this point after their first really bad year in a long time.
Yeah,
is trying to change things around there.
It's a depth move. Obviously, the Bruins are getting prospects, whereas, like you said, Drew Brazeau's, 23 years old, 24 years old, something like that. He's a big guy, and the Wild are going to the playoffs, whereas the Bruins most likely are not going to the playoffs. Yeah. Last time I checked, where I have it right here, the Bruins are, what are they, like, that's the thing, right? 3 points back.
Teams,
five teams ahead of them.
But they've got, for example,
they've also played 64 games.
I was going to say, comparing the Rangers to the Senators guys, the Rangers have played 64 games.
No, the Bruins have played 64 games.
Pardon me, the Bruins, that's what I meant to say. Yeah. Have played 64 games. The Sens have played 61, right?
That's right.
So I think what's interesting about that trade, Drew, is that going to lead to Brad Marchand being traded? Brandon Carlo's name is out there.
Morgan Geekie
of Strathclare, Manitoba. His name is out there, right? So, I mean, there's a possibility the Bruins are going to be big-time sellers tomorrow.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at this point in time. Once you start to sort of open up once you put the for sale sign up, and there's really shouldn't be very many untouchables. What's you considering Marchand? There's no untouchables on that roster.
By the way, Carlo Geekie as a package is intriguing. Sure. Or individually, I think Carlo, his underlying numbers are pretty good, right? Like he's obviously a third pairing guy.
Yeah, right side. He would be a right side guy.
It's. I mean, here in Winnipeg, everybody's hypersensitive to the left side, right side.
But I wouldn't be surprised. We talked about it. We talked about this on Saturday's show. I know that everybody's looking at the Logan Stanley spot, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Jets looked around and said, you know what? Not that I think Colin Miller has done anything to deserve being out of the lineup, but they have such a infatuation with Logan Stanley, despite the warts. And Spency's laughing at me because we've talked about this for so many weeks and months.
He's just
and years
laughing
at this
because you're
point,
talking
right?
about warts.
Well, that might be it too. It wouldn't shock me if that somehow the Jets ended up with, maybe a right side defenseman or even both a left and a right side defenseman on the third pair. At this point in time,
I wouldn't be surprised either.
Yeah, like you said, you're the one who said it earlier today, Connor. That you would be shocked if the Jets still have their first round pick. Come 2 o'clock Central tomorrow.
Yeah, they're going to add. And we've talked at length, at least at the start of this show, about how big the 2C addition would be. I think that the third pairing isn't as equal in terms of impact and what you'll need going into the playoffs, but that's a spot, the third pairing left shot or right side, third pairing in general, where the Colorado Avalanche dominated the Jets last year. Every time that pairing was on the ice, and there was an icing where there was a favorable line change. Nathan McKinnon was coming over the boards. Val Tushkin was coming over the boards, right? So that's an area I'd like to see the Jets solidify. Jacob Stoller, who I do the Sunday show with, had a report earlier today that the Jets were interested in Carson Soucy. Carson Soucy, who I thought would be a good third pairing guy,
got traded to the Rangers.
To the New York Rangers for a third-round pick. So someone of that type, though, a big penalty-killing defenseman that can solidify the third pair, be effective on the penalty kill, that the Jets are a little bit more middle of the pack in, even though they've been better in 2025, I think is somewhere that the Jets will also look to target, and it won't cost them their first-round pick. It might be a day 2 pick, like a 3, like Carson Soucy went for.
You know what? We'll find out by 2 o'clock tomorrow. You would think one way or the other. We'll find out by 2 o'clock tomorrow. I promised you a Eric Comrie tweet or a quote courtesy of our buddy Murat Atesh before the night is up. Here's Eric Comrie talking about Kyle Connor's elite release. You see it every single day in practice, how he works every single day, even in the gym. I think it's underrated, or it's his underrated strength, pardon me, his forearm strength, that he really can just fire that thing off really quickly. He can snap it off. That is Eric Comrie talking about Kyle Connor. He had another good one here, if I can pull it up in time as we're doing this live, talking about the team win tonight. Quote, "These guys are awesome. We play hard every single night. I think our coaching staff does a great job of making sure we do the right things. And I think we played a pretty good game tonight, I'd say." I'd agree.
As did Eric Conley.
I think wasn't overwhelmingly tested.
Give yourself a pat on the back, Eric.
Look at his numbers. Look at his numbers this year. And I think he's now 8-9-1, if I'm not mistaken. But his goals against is now, I think, 2.43 or 2.44. And his save percentage is 2.46. And his save percentage is
914.
Yeah, so that's above league average.
Oh, yeah.
And Eric Comrie has given the Jets everything. It's absolutely above average, Drew. He has given them excellent backup goaltending. He gives them a chance to win every night. And even in those games where he was losing and not getting any run support, he was playing well.
Yeah.
Right? So he's been a great story. Obviously, he's not the main story, but it's an important position, right? Like Connor Hellebuyck obviously plays more than most goalies, but you have to have a goalie that in the 20 or so games that he plays, he gives you a great performance and gives you your team a chance to win, and that's what he's done.
Look, the Jets next year, the goaltending tandem of presumably Hellebuyck and Comrie are going to cost the Jets less than Vancouver's goaltending tandem and Washington's goaltending tandem. And last time I looked, neither of those two teams, Washington or Vancouver, have Connor Hellebuyck in net.
Exactly.
So the Jets are using their dollars wisely when it comes to their goaltending tandem. If you can get Connor Hellebuyck, of course, is worth his weight in gold. And then if you can get a backup goalie to do what Eric Comrie is doing at $800,000 a year, thank you very much. I'll run to the bank. And to that point, we have to talk about quickly the trade that the Jets have made today.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah, which is Kaapo Kähkönen, their third-string goalie at the Manitoba Moose. The trade is 1-for-1, going to the Florida Panthers for Chris Driedger. I think this is a Winnipegger. Thank you, Spency. Yes. From the Jets' perspective, I think this trade is a no-brainer. Driedger has good numbers at the NHL level when he's had the opportunity. Kaapo Kähkönen does not. It's almost as simple as that. Kähkönen is the worst of the two goaltenders, and Chris Driedger can come in, shore up the Moose goaltending situation, and you're going to be perfectly fine with whatever he does. And, in a worst-case scenario, at least at the NHL level, he has a small pedigree of success.
So Chris Driedger is the ultimate quintessential goaltender. Ready for his stats? 67 career NHL games played. He's 31, 24, and 5 with a .917 save percentage. You think that's a strong backup goalie to a low-end starter. Well, this year for the Charlotte Checkers in the AHL, he's played 20 games and got an .878 save percentage in the American Hockey League. He's the quintessential goal. The goalies are voodoo. We talk about this all the time.
Yes.
And Chris Drieger, I think, is the ultimate evidence of that. 917 career NHL save percentage, but this year he's .878 in the AHL.
Well, you would have said that
the
the goaltending depth organizationally, as for the Jets, was a little bit thin. I mean, you got Dom DiVincentis and you got Thomas Millett. Those guys are too young to have to ever rely on them at the NHL level. Capo Kakkonen, if you had to rely on the NHL level, you're holding your breath for dear life. Chris Drieger, not that you want him to be, your NHL level option, but at least you're maybe have a slight bit more confidence in him.
For sure. I mean, there's two elements or two kind of parts, I think, of this trade. Obviously, being from Winnipeg is just great, right? I think we all agree. Anytime you can get someone from Manitoba to play for the Jets or acquire a player that is from Manitoba is great. And like Connor just said, right? Like, I think what you're doing here is you have two goaltenders. Like Drew said, let's be honest, Kakkonen, he's had some, set some decent numbers at times in the NHL, but nothing consistent. So I think what you're seeing here is you're seeing two guys that haven't had great years, and you're hoping a change of scenery helps them.
Right.
The Manitoba Moose, they're in tough to make the playoffs. They're going to have to win a lot of games here.
They're not making the playoffs.
They're most likely not making the playoffs. You're right, Drew. But to have a guy like Drieger, who's now going to be a role model and that veteran for Dom DiVincentis, who's been a nice story.
Yeah.
Considering this is his first pro year, he was amazing for Norfolk in the ECHL, and it's been pretty good for the Moose. And you expect him to have some good games and some bad games, being a 20, 21-year-old goaltender, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is obviously a depth move. It's for the Moose.
Drieger's older than I would have thought
30.
at this point. 30,
yeah.
And he's a UFA at season's end as well.
Yeah.
So you never know if he's actually going to be here, for any length of time. But just gives you a little bit more confidence, I would say, in the organization.
I
I
agree.
can't believe Chris Drieger's already 30.
Yeah.
That's surprising to me.
Well, sometimes goalies get late starts too.
That's
Like
true.
goalies break in at 25, 26.
Yeah.
But to your point about Dom DiVincentis, he's got a 922 save percentage this year for the Moose. Like,
Not
that
bad.
is, you can't ask for much better than that for a 7th round goaltender, 21 years old, making his pro debut season, right? So that's the Jets' goaltending depth. Obviously, you have Connor Hellebuck, and he's going to be the guy for the remainder of his 7-year extension that he's currently in year 1 in. But out of that, you have Thomas Millett, Dom DiVincentis, young players coming up, and you have Chris Drieger, who, to me, this seems like a free upgrade on depth. And then the fact that he's from Winnipeg is icing on the cake. I've used that phrase twice now today.
In that case, if you're talking that much about cake, that means I'm hungry. It's time for dessert. And speaking of cake, Eric Comrie finished off his media availability by wishing Matt Prefontaine, the Wayne Gretzky of video coaches.
Connor McDavid.
Connor McDavid. Yeah, Wayne Gretzky is persona non grata now. The Connor McDavid of video coaches. Matty Prefontaine, happy birthday. It's his birthday today. So
And he didn't even have to do a challenge for his birthday.
Exactly. So as Eric Comrie said to the assembled media, if you see Matty Prefontaine, wish him a happy birthday, because it is his birthday, so we'll extend those wishes out. 4-1, the Jets win over the Philadelphia Flyers. A great night tonight for the Jets. A great night tonight down here at Boston Pizza on Taylor Avenue. Trade deadline tomorrow. Keep it locked. Thank you, Spency. Keep it locked to illegalcurve.com all day tomorrow. We have a post-game show after the Jets and the Devils tomorrow night. We have the Saturday morning show to talk about everything that goes on with the trade, and then a Sunday afternoon show as well. So a very busy time ahead for us at Illegal Curve. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. Make sure your notifications are turned on, and be sure to join us each and every game afterwards for the Illegal Curve post-game show. 2-2 between the Flames and the Dallas Stars with less than 3 minutes to go. So that's something to keep an eye on over the final couple minutes as we look to see what happens on the out-of-town scoreboard. Connor Harabchuk's over there. Ezra Ginsburg's over here. I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll see everybody tomorrow night and all throughout the day of trade deadline day. Until then, we wish you good night and good luck. And thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.